So what's really in a name? Well, for one particular military regiment, its name tells this incredible 200-year story of shifting empires, brutal wars, and a constantly changing identity. We're going to trace this whole journey and see how the story of just one unit can actually reflect the history of the entire world.
Okay, check this out. In 1903, the regiment's official title was the 124th Duchess of Connaught's own Baluchistan Infantry. I know, it's a mouthful, right? It makes you think of these grand parades and old-school colonial adventure. But that impressive name, it's really just one chapter in a much, much longer story.
So that's the big question. How on earth does a military unit end up with a name like that? To figure it out, we've got to go all the way back to its origins. And by tracing its history, we're going to uncover a story that's not just about a single regiment, but really about the rise and fall of the British Empire itself.
Our journey doesn't start in the 20th century, though. We have to go back further, to 1820. We're talking about an era of flintlock muskets and redcoats. And, as you might guess, our regiment had a very, very different identity back then.
This was its first incarnation, the 2nd Marine Battalion, 12th Regiment Bombay Native Infantry. It was raised in Bombay way back in 1820, and it was a unit of Indian soldiers, they were known as sepoys, who served under British officers. Their main job really was to protect the interests of the incredibly powerful British East India Company.
And this regiment was thrown into the thick of it almost immediately. I mean, it stormed the fortress of Aden in 1839, it faced the absolute fury of the Indian Rebellion in 1857, and it slogged through the tough campaigns of the Second Afghan War in 1879. This was truly its baptism by fire.
But all of that service came at a really heavy price. During the Indian Rebellion alone, the regiment lost 52 men. And you have to remember, each of those numbers represents a life cut short. It's just a stark reminder of the very real human cost of empire.
Okay, so as the 19th century starts to wind down, the regiment is about to go through this massive transformation. This is when it really becomes the Duchess's own, and the story behind that long, complicated name starts to come together. In 1891, the regiment gets moved to the rugged frontier province of Baluchistan in what is now Pakistan. Now, this was a strategic move by the British, right? They wanted to secure the borders of their empire. But it was so much more than just a change of location. It was a complete reinvention of the unit's entire identity.
And this slide just shows you how dramatic that change was. The regiment wasn't recruiting from the diverse population of the Bombay Presidency anymore. Instead, its ranks were filled with Balochs, Pathans, and Punjabi Muslims, men from the so-called martial races of the frontier. And their look changed too. The iconic red coat of the British Army was gone, replaced by a more practical drab uniform, but with this flash of color and their very distinctive red trousers.
Then, in 1895, the regiment received this huge honor. The Duchess of Connaught, who was a member of the British royal family, became its colonel-in-chief. This was a really prestigious appointment that created a direct link between the soldiers out on the frontier and the very heart of the empire.
And this is where the regiment's name basically becomes a living history book. Every single part of the title tells a piece of the story. 24th goes back to its origins in the Bombay Army. Baluchistan reflects its new home, and Duchess of Connaught's own points to its new royal connection. See? This wasn't just a name. It was a badge of honor, a real testament to the regiment's journey.
Now, as the world plunged into the chaos of the First World War, the regiment would face its toughest challenge yet. The Great War was going to test its courage, its resilience, and its very existence.
When the war kicked off in 1914, the regiment was just a single battalion, a pretty small unit in the gigantic machinery of the British Indian Army. But the unbelievable scale of this new kind of war would demand a massive, massive expansion.
So yeah, the demands of the war led to this incredibly rapid expansion. The original 1st Battalion was sent to Persia. Then a 2nd Battalion was raised for the absolutely grueling Mesopotamian campaign. A 3rd Battalion was formed too, serving in all sorts of places across the Middle East. The regiment was suddenly fighting on multiple fronts at once. I mean, the regiment's soldiers fought in the dust and heat of Mesopotamia, the mountains of Persia, the deserts of Palestine. They fought against the Ottoman Empire, and even after the war officially ended, their fight just kept going in the Third Afghan War and the Iraqi Revolt. They really show you the global reach of that conflict.
And all this global service, well, it came at a staggering cost. Across its 3 battalions, the regiment suffered nearly 1,200 casualties. Think about that. 459 men were killed in action or died of disease. That was the price of loyalty, the grim reality of a world at war.
The end of the First World War really marked the beginning of a whole new era. As the British Empire started to decline, the regiment would once again have to adapt and forge a new identity in a completely changed world. So this is the story of its transition from British India to modern-day Pakistan.
So, after the war in 1922, the British Indian Army went through this massive reorganization. Our regiment was grouped together with 4 other Baluch battalions to form the new 10th Baloch Regiment. What this did was create a larger, more cohesive unit, kind of a family of regiments that would carry the legacy of its predecessors into the future.
This timeline here, it charts the final, really dramatic chapter of the regiment's story. With the end of British rule in 1947, it was allocated to the brand new Pakistan Army. It went through more name changes over the years, but, as you can see from the timeline, that chain of lineage, it remained unbroken.
And here it is. This is the most remarkable part of the entire story. After 200 years of service, after all those name changes, the different uniforms, the shifting allegiances, the regiment still exists today. It is now the 6th Battalion of the Baloch Regiment in the Pakistan Army, and its lineage stretches all the way back to that small unit of sepoys raised in Bombay in 1820.
So you've got 200 years, a dozen different names, but one single unbroken legacy. The story of this one regiment is really a microcosm of world history. It's a testament to the enduring power of tradition and, honestly, the resilience of the human spirit. It is a living, breathing piece of history, and its story is far from over. Makes you wonder, what will the next 200 years hold?